Hello, and welcome to the Craft Brewed Music Podcast, the official podcast of Craft Brewed Music, the music discovery app that streams better music for serious listeners. Here we explore and get to know the creators of that music. I'm Brian Horner, founder and curator of Craft Brewed Music, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Aaron Stamen, a Craft Brewed Music artist. Good afternoon, everybody, or evening, or morning, or whenever you are listening to this. Aaron is actually on vacation this week and is not going to be with us, and I wanted to take the opportunity to do something a little different. For those of you who have become aware of Craft Brewed Music through the podcast, I wanted to take a minute to talk about our main product, Craft Brewed Music, the music discovery app. This is the product that we launched in a soft launch a couple of years ago, and the podcast came out of that. Craft Brewed Music, the music discovery app, is a collection of what we call better music for serious listeners. It was inspired by the artists that I work with as a manager. I was traveling with a couple of them once, and somebody asked me what kind of music I worked with, and off the cuff, I said that it was kind of craft music. And that made perfect sense to me, in that we have craft burgers and craft beer and craft bourbon. And there is music that is sort of that same thing, but in the music world. And I got to thinking about what I could build for my artists and others to help shine a light on that kind of music. The major streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music, things like that, are heavily geared toward the major labels and music that's popular, that's already attained popularity in whatever way that it has. And this is designed to shine a spotlight on things that are world-class and substantial, yet also accessible, and things that you might not find otherwise. And so through a lot of brainstorming with people who are now my partners in the company, and investment from people who believed in the concept, we built this app and offer it to people as a means to help them discover music that I don't think they would otherwise. It's a what's called a non-interactive streaming service, which means that we shuffle music, and it serves up songs for you to listen to without you selecting them. You can't go in and pick something to listen to, and that's by design. We want you to discover something new here, and we hope that you will go seek it out elsewhere. But the purpose of this is to help you discover something, and to provide a listening experience that is different. And at the risk of exhausting the beer metaphor, I think there's times when you want a major label beer. You want to have a Budweiser or something and watch the Super Bowl. And then there's other times maybe that you are hanging out with a certain kind of group of people, or you're in a certain mood and you want to, perhaps sit with a beverage that's more experimental, exploratory, substantial, interesting. And this would pair well with that. So that's kind of the thought process behind it. And the other part of the model is that I designed this as an artist manager with artists in mind. It's as artist friendly as it can possibly be. We split the income with the artists. The money that comes in the door is split with the artist. It goes to a royalty and then also a commission fee. When you sign up for the app, there's a little drop-down menu and you can select the artist that turned you on to what we're doing. And they get an extra commission there. And the hope is that it becomes, a revenue stream for these artists, as well as a way for them to make new fans. And as importantly, a way for you to find those magical artists that enrich your life. So there's the Music Discovery app, which is a subscription-based discovery streaming service that has all the music. And then there's the podcast, which is free and features interviews with those artists. So what is the music that is Craft Brewed Music? It's fully curated by me and by Aaron. And I think that it's really similar to the experience of going to a brewery and getting a flight of their beer, a sampler of everything that they offer. Some of that is going to be fairly familiar to you, and something that you're, that's kind of an easy thing to say, yeah, okay, I love this. Maybe that's a Pilsner, but it's one that's got a lot of body and taste and is really great. And then other artists on here are going to be more challenging. All of it is picked because it's not only substantial but also accessible. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be instantly accessible in the way that pop radio would be, for example. And that pop radio has its time and place, and and I enjoy it too. This has got a little bit different purpose. This is for those times and moods when you want something new and you want a little bit of a challenge. So, and like I said, there's a spectrum of more challenging and less challenging, and I think it works together to kind of draw you in and take you to places that you might not have chosen to go without those bridges having been built. And so, what does it sound like? I'm going to open the app here and see randomly what we get. I'm going to show you what it sounds like here in 5 songs. So I'm opening up. The first song is Jeff Coffin. Jeff is the saxophonist for Dave Matthews Band and longtime member of Bela Fleck and the Flecktones before that, but also a prolific artist in his own right. And we have a bunch of his music in the player. And this is one from an album he did called Sometime Springtime. The song is called Falling. Okay, and this is, I promise you, this is completely random. The next song is actually by my co-host here, Aaron Stamen, a song called Part-Time Renaissance Man off of his first album, which was an EP called Human Condition. So you've heard him talk and think and ask questions, and so here's Aaron's music. I'm actually really glad this came up. Part-Time Renaissance Man, and actually I'm playing the soprano saxophone solo on this one.
Gonna make a move under the guise of one that's gonna make a laugh. Gonna get that telephone. Cold-blooded big shop girl with a powdered sugar wet look hair. Don't you find it charming when I spill creamer everywhere? I crawl out defeated, all things I look into. I walk to my Chrysler, got a flight down to the rim. Then I get to thinking, might be my chance to shine. She'll see I'm manly and technically inclined, but I ain't changed no ties before. Well, I'm only a part-time Renaissance man. She's staring out that door. I'm making up my mind what kind of fool I am. Down to work, there's something foul at my feet. Some sorry drunk, they must have lost it on the street. cold-blooded bake shop girl. It ain't fair to laugh like that when it took half an hour just to find where the jack was at. My planet had flaws, I'm doing something wrong. I'm insecure cause my luck range ain't that long. Some burly stranger, he wears plaits and naturally says, son, can I help you? Oh, he can clearly see that I ain't changed no ties before. Well, I'm only a part-time Renaissance man. She's staring out that door, making up her mind what kind of fool I am. Part-time Renaissance man.
All right, for number 3, we've got Davina and the Vagabonds. We featured Davina on an early podcast episode, and this is her song Sugar Drops from the album of the same name.
You seasoned my soul, then you let the lonesome foghorn blow. I've been chasing your sugar drops, but I'll never see you again. I felt so hard and fast, letting all the good air drifting past. Wide eyes caught red-handed. I wish you knew how sad I am without your sugar drops. How can I survive? Let you swallow me whole. You knew I would lose all control. How could I be such a fool? You spit me out when you spiked my soul. My mind will move away from yours since you left me standing on your shore, leaving with the only cure of wanting you more and more and more and more. Float a bottle back to me. Your scent is spell and a key, so I can live peacefully, serene and light and guilty free. Oh no, without your sugar drops. How can I survive? It must have been days since I swam in your sweet and sticky A's. You know what they always say, your heart grows fonder when your love's away. All these waves are crashing to my feet, whispering the countless weeks, nudging me with sweet defeat. That my candy-coated heart can be without your sugar drops.
For the 4th song in our What Does Craft Brewed Music Sound Like in 5 songs demonstration here. The next song that came up is the guitarist Charlie Hunter. This is an instrumental one. We have both vocal songs and instrumental tunes in here. And this one is actually his take on the jazz standard Indiana. And last we have hammered dulcimer player Ted Yoder. He's been called the Bela Fleck of the dulcimer. And this is a tune called Whispers in the Trees.
Whispers in the pines, whispers in the pines for me.
I'm going to give you a bonus, a sixth example of what craft brewed music sounds like, so that we have 3 vocals and 3 instrumentals. This is singer-songwriter Annie Mosier singing White Roses.
White roses make me nauseous. They remind me of my failures and my losses. If they're sitting on the table, someone's probably gone or dead. For the love of Jesus, send me red. They're saved for sorries and for second place, for heartbreaks and let's still be friends, or some such disgrace. An ugly greenish hue invades the bud, like some mold creeping in, swallowing the good. So white roses make me nauseous. They remind me of my failures and my losses. If they're sitting on the table, someone's probably gone or dead. For the love of Jesus, send me red.
So that offers just a taste of, the kind of music, the variety of music that you might discover. And so if that seems appealing, you can try it for free. There's a 14-day free trial on the app, both in the Google Play Store and at Apple's App Store. You download the app, you create your account, including selecting an artist that referred you. You could select any of these artists you heard here today, if you're so inclined, or anybody else. And see what you think. You got 14 days to cancel. And if you like it, keep it. It's $5 a month, $50 a year, which is less than the cost of a cup of coffee each month. And not only will it enrich your lives, but it supports art, which is, if music and art are meaningful to you, there are fewer and fewer ways to support it in a meaningful way to the artist. And we hope that this is one. I realize I'm sounding a little bit like an NPR fund drive at the moment, but it's really true, and I think it's a cool feature, and hopefully one that resonates with our listeners of the podcast, and hopefully our subscribers to the app as well. And we welcome your thoughts. Leave ratings and comments, and we want to make the best product possible. So we hope you enjoy it, and let us know what you think. I'm going to close out this episode with an interview with, I think, our youngest fan. This is actually my nephew, Kenny, was visiting last week, and I found out how, and I knew that he listened to the app, and I knew that he listened to the podcast, but I didn't realize how into it he was, and he's truly a fan of both things, and he's up to date. He's listened to all 20 or 21 episodes of the podcast, whatever we're at now, and as well as the app. So a very cool listener for age 12, and I've always known that he was a cool kid. But anyway, while he was here, we recorded a little conversation about it, and I thought he made some really great points, so I wanted to share that with you. Thanks for listening to me and checking out the app, and I hope you'll give it a try. It's free at first, and then well worth it after that. Hope you enjoy. Thanks. So we've got something a little different here. I'm here with my nephew Kenny, who is 12 years old, and as such is our youngest fan. He's a regular podcast listener to a number of podcasts, but he also is a regular listener to our podcast, and also regularly listens to the app, the Craft Brewed Music app. So thanks for being here, Kenny.
No problem.
We're actually seeing each other for the first time in 16 months or so. So it's good to be able to get together post-pandemic. And he's such a fan that I just wanted to chat with him a little bit. So you listen to a bunch of different podcasts. What is it that you like about the Craft Brewed Music podcast?
I think it's really interesting because you talk about your app a lot, and I use this app very often. So sometimes I'll hear you talk about a specific artist, and you'll like talk about or play a specific part of that, like a song that's on Craft Brewed Music, and then I'll hear it later, and I'll know the backstory behind it, or I'll know a little bit more about the artist when I do hear it.
Cool. And so when you're listening to the podcast, you're saying that sometimes you recognize that we'll be talking to somebody who you've already discovered their music on the app?
Yeah.
Cool. And so that kind of makes it make more sense. Is there anything that you've heard that you've liked better after you hear the podcast? Maybe you didn't quite get it or you didn't like it as much when you heard it on the app, but after hearing the artist talk about it, it makes you like it better?
Yeah, I've heard some backstories like that. I don't remember the specific names of the songs, but I've definitely heard some backstories and then listened to the song and thought after that, wow, now I understand a lot more about the song.
Cool. Now, do all your friends listen to the Craft Brewed Music podcast?
I'm probably one of the only kids that listens to podcasts that at least I know.
Oh, any podcasts?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely outside of what we think of as our normal demographic. But I think maybe this is an opportunity for us. You could kind of market us.
Yeah.
You think
Definitely.
so? You up for that?
Yeah.
So now, what kind of music outside of the app? What kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to all different types of things. If you were looking at my music library, you'd see reggae, hip hop, R&B, pop, all different types of things.
And Craft Brewed music.
And Craft Brewed music.
And so, what are some of your favorite discoveries on the Craft Brewed music app? Is there stuff that you didn't know existed that's...
Well, yeah, I think that all of Craft Brewed music is somewhat of something new that no one's heard to an extent, because it's not like mainstream music. It's not like huge Spotify. It's not like Spotify or Apple Music, because those are just promoting the new music, the top artists, the most famous people, not other artists that are kind of outside of just direct pop. Mm-hmm. So I just hear so many different combinations of different things. I've heard so many different genres mixed together, and I just think it's really cool.
Awesome. Well, that's great to hear, and great to hear that somebody young like yourself is digging it. Can you think of anybody, can you think of any of your favorite artists from the app?
I really do enjoy Jesse Terry.
Mm-hmm. Good. And you were saying you liked that episode on the podcast a lot too, right?
Yeah.
And so what is it about Jesse or his music that you like?
It's hard to necessarily say. I just feel very like not in my own world, but just like very relaxed when I hear his music.
There's a lyric in one of his songs, I think, that refers to writing songs that what is the lyric? Something about that the songs are like movies, and that sort of made sense to me. I feel like the songs are kind of like movies.
Yeah, like a picture kind of plays in my head.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what do you want to talk about, Kenny?
Probably the diversity of this app. Think about it. The main music that most people are listening to right now are places like Spotify and Apple Music, where the most famous people that get the most recognition are playing. And I feel like artists like the ones on Craft Brewed Music just don't get necessarily as much recognition. It's kind of like that app has its own sort of not genre, but just like sort of group of artists, because it's so, you hear so many different mixes of things. I've heard country, I've heard soul even, I've heard some mixes of pop, and it's so, a lot of these artists just don't get as much recognition, I feel like. And it's just a cool app where when you open the app, you don't necessarily know what's going to play first. But I have always enjoyed it.
So, Kenny, you heard in the first episode where Aaron and I were kind of talking about our past and how we knew each other, that we were in a band together when we were in high school, way before you were born, and actually not too far after you were, your age now. in a band called Larry Mondello, and you were asking me about that. Do you have any other questions about that?
Yeah, so I did hear about that. I think it's really cool hearing Aaron on the podcast and talking about this because I think he has a very big influence in not only craft brewed music and the podcast, but you as a musician. I feel like having him there, and especially just the band in total and your interest in music, has really helped you become who you are today.
Yeah, that's very true. He has had a big influence musically, and also he has a really stupid sense of humor that I've developed alongside him over the years.
I got small hints of that in the podcast.
But yeah, no, he's been a huge musical influence, and it's awesome to have him doing this with me. Right here, we're in my office here where we record the podcast, and here is the cassette tape, Larry Mondello, New Car Smell, that we released in 1994, back in the 1900s. Have you heard of the 1900s?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you heard of tapes? You know what this is?
Yeah, I've seen them. My parents gave them when they were younger and in college. They gave each other mixtapes as birthday presents.
That's right. Your mom and I would split. We'd pool our money and get a new tape.
Wow.
And split it.
That's an amazing. That's an amazing album name. New Car Smell.
Thank you. We should play some of the music.
We should.
I don't know if Aaron and I are ready for that to be. We have more contemporary projects that represent our musicianship a little better nowadays.
I got you.
Now you play music yourself.
Oh yeah, I'm a violinist.
Excellent. How long have you been playing violin?
Since 2018, so now nearly 3 years.
Cool. And you play in an orchestra at school?
Yeah. And I do private lessons outside of school.
Okay.
This summer, actually.
You play classical music mostly?
Yeah.
And do you listen to any classical music?
Oh yeah, I do. I listen to Beethoven, Mozart, Bach.
Wow. You are quite the unusually mature and diverse 12-year-old listener.
Thank you.
Have you ever thought about playing your violin in different styles?
I actually have before. You can easily find different songs that you just hear in general on the internet and play it as music, and I think it's really cool playing, for example, bands like Maroon 5 on the violin, or something like that. Even Billy Joel, Piano Man, or Uptown Girl, or something like that. I really enjoy playing on the violin as well.
Oh, that's great.
But mostly when I'm doing orchestra or private lessons, it's usually more classical music.
Yeah, right.
Beethoven or Mozart, for example.
Right, okay.
It's symphonies.
We've got an artist in the Craft Brewed music family named Tracy Silverman, who's an electric violinist. He plays a 6-string electric violin.
I think I've heard him on the app before.
That's right. And so he's doing all sorts of different things about on the violin. We'll have him on the podcast here soon. He's got a lot of educational products as well, showing people how to, showing classical players how to kind of get out of that classical box and play the music of our time on their instruments, which is kind of what you're talking about.
Looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah, you'll like that a lot. I'll show you some videos here when we're done. Well, that's great that you play. Do you think you'll keep playing?
Oh, yeah, I'll play into high school, college. I enjoy the violin.
That's great. Sounds like you enjoy music in general.
Yeah, I do.
What does music bring to your life? Why do you like it so much?
I feel it just kind of puts me in my own space. When, for example, during stressful times or on a bike ride, I enjoy biking. I just like to turn on music. And it just kind of puts me in my own space. I feel like that's the best way to describe it.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for listening to the products we put out, the app and the podcast, and for taking a little time to share your thoughts on them with us.
I should be thanking you for the great quality.
Thank you for listening. Craft Brewed Music, both the podcast and the streaming service, has the mission of promoting this music and these artists. We can't do that without ears on the music. So if you like what you've heard here, we're going to ask 2 small favors. First, tell someone about the podcast. Secondly, go to the App Store or Google Play, download the Craft Brewed Music app, and try a free 2-week trial of the streaming service. For more information, visit us at craftbrewedmusic.com. Thanks again, and see you next time.